Joe Biden has pardoned all individuals who have been convicted of federal simple possession charges of marijuana. That is good. His campaign promise was to decriminalize marijuana, and that has not been a step that he's taken. But this is one step in that direction, we'll say, and definitely will positively impact those that it applies to. So let's go ahead and read about this. We'll look at his announcement and then a little bit more after that. President Joe Biden Thursday announced he's pardoning all Americans who have been convicted of simple marijuana possession under federal law. That's important, federal law, because most of those are going to be at the state level. Coming closer to keeping a 2020 campaign promise to decriminalize the drug a little more than a month before the midterm election. The executive action will benefit 6,500 people with prior federal convictions and thousands of others charged on the District of Columbia's criminal code, according to senior administration officials. Elaborating on the number of people affected, officials said there are no individuals currently in federal prison solely for simple possession of marijuana. But what's important about this is, as it noted here, those who are currently charged, but then also wiping the slate clean for those who have been charged in the past, because that can affect a lot about your life when you have those prior convictions on your record. So then here is Biden announcing this with a social media video.
As I said when I ran for president, no one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, to educational opportunities. And that's before you address the racial disparities around who suffers the consequences. While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates. So today, I'm taking 3 steps to end this failed approach. First, I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana. There are thousands of people who are convicted for marijuana possession who may be denied employment, housing, or educational opportunities as a result of that conviction. My pardon will remove this burden on them. Second, I'm calling on all governors to do the same for state marijuana possession offenses. Third, the federal government currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule I substance, the same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense. So I'm asking the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to initiate a process to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. Even as federal and local regulations of marijuana change, important limitations on trafficking, marketing, and underage sales should stay in place. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time that we right these wrongs.
Agreed. Those steps are absolutely great. As you mentioned there, the prior convictions and that record being wiped, as well as calling on governors, which what does that really mean, calling on governors? But hopefully some of them get motivated to do the same for state cases. And then on top of that, looking into removing it from the Schedule I substances list, which would be necessary. And as I mentioned, to hold him accountable, his campaign promise, decriminalization, that's what he needs to get to. And hopefully this is him heading in that direction. And then here's CNN talking about this. Caitlin Collins kind of breaking down some of this effectively.
What President Biden has just announced in the last few minutes is that he is going to pardon all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. That is going to potentially affect thousands of Americans, and some estimates from the White House, about 6,500 Americans. In addition to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, this is going to apply to them as well. And in addition to this major step by President Biden, which the White House does say is in an effort to fulfill a campaign promise to ease violations on those who have been convicted of marijuana use, the president is also encouraging states and governors to do the same, to look at the same convictions in their states and potentially pardon them as well. And he is also instructing the Department of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to conduct a review into what marijuana is classified as. Right now, as you know, it is a Schedule I drug that is higher than fentanyl, which has caused so many deaths and so many issues in the United States. And the White House clearly believes a review should be conducted, potentially a change made there. And this is a huge step by President Biden that he is making, just 32 days out from the midterms. And when we asked the White House Why now? Why this timing on this decision? They said it was in part because President Biden wants to fulfill that campaign pledge that he made, and also because it's a decision that he has been weighing for some time. So this is incredibly significant news coming from the White House that President Biden is going to move to pardon.
Okay, so reiterating some of the same points, or all the same points that we heard Biden make, but then adding on that this is an interesting time right before the midterms to hopefully do something to label Biden with someone or as someone who is following through on his campaign promises, and thus you can believe in the Democratic Party in the midterms to do the same if you vote them in. So good move. Hopefully, as everyone's talking about, this is the first step he's going to take towards full decriminalization, and it's absolutely getting justice for people who never should have had that conviction based on possession of marijuana, completely unnecessary. And so credit to Biden for that. And hopefully we see more going forward.